Section 184 of the Connecticut General Statutes says that it's parents' responsibility to educate their children, and many parents take that responsibility very seriously, and they decide to put their children in a parochial school. They might decide to homeschool, as I did, but they're punished because they're paying through a private school of their choice, or a homeschool in my case, but they're having to pay for a public school. Could you please elaborate on your position for these parents who do take that responsibility very seriously?
I'd be happy to comment on that. I think that parents should be given many choices, particularly in our inner city, with many of the schools that are failing these parents. And I do believe that they should be given the opportunity to choose a school instead of being mandated where they need to go. And I do believe in money follows that child. And that means if the money that the state is paying for that public school and that student goes to a charter school or another school in that town, that money should follow that student into that school. So that would cover parochial schools as well.
Would it cover homeschools?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know that you can make the case that you're going to pay a parent for educating their own children voluntarily in their own home. It's something I've never considered before, but you raise an interesting question. I'd be happy to talk to you about that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else?
Aware that the Common Core state standards are privately owned?
Well, I did learn quite a bit about this. I actually gave a presentation in one of our other towns in New Canaan. The bottom line is that the Common Core came about because of Republicans and Democratic governors got together and actually decided that they needed an alignment across all states so that they can compare it. I actually hired someone privately to put it together, and a lot of it was paid by the Gates Foundation and others as well. Yeah. One of them is Pearson Publishing, additionally. And I have problems with the Common Core simply because it really wasn't built by educators, as well as I'm not too keen about the idea of having every single state completely the same. That's why we pushed hard. I've sent a letter to the commissioner and many others about delaying this, taking a pause, taking a better look at it, letting it be revised based on individual states' needs. In fact, I still believe in local control. Individual towns have the ability to do that. Yes?
Yeah. What is your position on the introduction of pre-K1 education, and would you agree that it is a further erosion of the family unit, the family responsibility, the parents' responsibility, and a push by government to take control of our children?
Well, you know, the data on early childhood development shows that children actually develop most of the brain cells and most of the learning anywhere from the age of 0 to 5. So 80% of what we learn, it's a very steep learning curve. And a lot of the achievement gap that Connecticut has is for families that are disadvantaged that can't access preschool education. When I first was elected as a freshman coming in from the State Board of Education, my local Board of Education, we really pushed in the beginning these preschool slots for disadvantaged children, but that's voluntary. When you're talking about a system which I don't think anybody right now can afford, the governor is pushing, you know, universal preschool for everyone. In other words, down to the 4th grade, just taking the kindergarten down into 4th grade and making it be a part of the public school system. It's not going to happen because financially they can't afford to do it. There is a case to be made that if you're disadvantaged and poor and you can't afford preschool and the state is providing for slots in that category as much as they do free and reduced lunch, there's a case to be made for that. But nobody is right now suggesting that it's going to be forced on someone that has a four-year-old student to do it. Most parents that have money will certainly provide that for their own children. But those that want to homeschool their children in Connecticut, they're free to do so.
You talk about principle, but what about the morality of it all? The family unit, the role of the parent in that 1 to 5.
Well, there's no one that believes that more than I. I mean, I came to this country when I was 5 years old. Parents right off the farm. I was born in a farmhouse. My father had a 5th grade education. My mother didn't have 1 day in school. We ended up in Naugatuck, Connecticut, in a blue-collar factory town. And I sat in a classroom from kindergarten to 4th grade without speaking a word of English. But what I had was strong family values, and my father made sure that we went to school. He worked 3 jobs every day so that we could get there. And I always say this, okay? There are only two places where you can make a difference in this world, and it's not any politician that's standing before you. We don't make a difference in the world. It's in the home or in the classroom. But in inner cities, many were not as fortunate as I. They were poor as we were, but they weren't as fortunate to have a mother and father that cared, that kept you fed, and made sure you went to school and believed that the teacher was always right. When that home, okay, fails the child, as it does too much in Connecticut, all they have left is the classroom. That's all they have. They have a teacher in the school system for 6 hours in a day. And that is critical to their success. So they're not all blessed to have the kind of family you obviously came from or that I did. And for those children, we need to provide them with something. And we certainly see it that at the very, very preschool age, that if they don't have that advantage that others do, that they're way behind and they never catch up. You know, and if they can't read by the 3rd grade, they're doomed to failure. Because unless you're literate, they could never succeed at anything. And I know that from personal experience.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Senator Boucher?